Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone. There is a small announcement. There is a link will be sent in the chat right now. You need to download it and create your own account because tomorrow lectures from 7 to 8 p.m. we will have a lecture with Dr. Muhammad Al-Hariri, how to write bibliography and check for plagiarism. So you need this, it's a free application, so you need it for tomorrow virtual workshop. So may you need your laptop to take a maximum benefit from that lecture. And at this stage, I'm so pleased with a great honor to welcome Dr. Sultan Al-Wajih. So after you analyze your data and you summarize the data and present them in a table and a graph, you need to deep dive after you analyze your data as you deep dive with Dr. Imad Khoja. You need to summarize your data and present them in a table and a graph. So you need to deep dive with Dr. Sultan Al-Wajih. After this lecture, inshallah, you will master that and more. Actually, I watched one video for Dr. Sultan in which he educates people and the researcher in how to choose the right journal and to prevent predatory one. It was an incredible video. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Sultan Al-Wajih and deep dive with can cheat you after that. Welcome, Dr. Sultan.
حياك الله دكتورة دنيا. إن شاء الله يكون الصوت واضح. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لو بس أحد يعطيني فيدباك إذا كان الصوت واضح. أنا and I will share my screen right now.
ممتاز يا. في يعني شوية بس في الباك جراوند في a little bit noisy but your voice is clear.
كذا أحسن؟
Yes.
Continue. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. As Dr. Dunya mentioned that after doing after doing the analysis, sometimes you will have the help of biostatistician to do your analysis, which is completely fine. Yani. You can pay somebody money and do the analysis for you. You have to know that when you want to present your data, sometimes you need feedback from the biostatistician because not all the data will be presented in a similar manner. Sometimes they are different. And I will speak about this after we talk about choosing the right journal and avoiding the predatory ones. The whole aim of research is to publish your work. If you don't publish your work, there is no benefit of doing research. Sometimes people feel maybe they get bored or they feel they are not obligated to publish their work. To be frank, sometimes this is unethical because if you expose human subjects, and in my previous lecture yesterday, and I spoke about the human subject, if you expose those people, those people are expecting that you will benefit the clinical practice. So you're taking from my precious time, say 45 minutes or 30 minutes, and I'm trying as much as I can to contribute to help you in this research. Why? Because we want to move science forward. So publishing is a must. You have to publish, otherwise we didn't do anything. It's not going to be helpful for the science. In the 1970, there was a phenomena called the file drawer effect. This phenomenon, usually some of the big pharma, the pharmaceutical company, they do a research, and in case they get a negative result, or if they are not pleased with the result, if they're trying to approve specific medication but their result is not proving that medication, they just take the paper and just put it in the file drawer, يعني يرموها في الدرج, and they don't publish this. Later we figure out that this is not helpful, because when you do systematic review meta-analysis, you're going to review the paper that have been published, and if the paper that have been published deviated more toward positive result, the systematic review and the meta-analysis will be biased. So now everybody has to register, especially for clinical trial. They have to pre-register before they do the research, and they have to publish obligatory. Yani they can't just do clinical trial and stop publishing. So when it comes to publication, this is another skills. It's very important. You need to target the journal that matches your articles. There are some tips here, and there are some tricks. Sometimes people, first let me tell you that the journey of publication sometimes take months, and unfortunately for some people, junior rookie researcher, it might take years. Why? There is a time when you send your paper, there is a receptionist will receive the paper, say that we are Annals of Saudi Medicine and I am a secretary. Before I send your paper to the editor, I have to make sure that you are contacting the right journal. If you are publishing something about Indian agriculture, this even doesn't need to, I have to filter it. I don't need to send it to my editor. If it meets the scope of my journal, I would send it to the editor. The editor would look at it quickly and would determine whether your paper qualifies for the peer reviewer. It's qualified for the peer reviewer. They spend time to edit it, prove it. Then they might reject it, or they might ask you to review it and send it back. So first point is make sure your paper matches the scope and the policies of the journal. In many times people submit their paper, paper goes to the secretary, then to the editor, then after 2 months, can you imagine, they send email saying that we regret that your paper will not be able to take your paper because it is not within the scope of our practice, or it's not within the scope of our publication. So this is your mistake, because you have the first thing you have to do when you open any journal, you have to go and read the author instruction. In the author instructions, they will mention clearly what's their scope, what are the topics they are looking for. So if you find this paper does not match your topic, you immediately go and find another paper. And don't be misled with the names. Sometimes the name says North America or Middle East or Asian, and you believe that, or let's say Australian medical journal, you would believe that this is only for the research paper that have been published or done in Australia. This is not right. You have to go and read the instruction. Sometimes it's international journal. This is only a name. So sometimes they accept any type of publication from any country. So don't be misled with a name like Middle East or North America. Go and read the author instruction to make sure the scope is matching your research topic. Last point here at the bottom says determine what impact factor you aim to publish. بعدين between two brackets, don't aim high at the beginning. As a junior rookie researcher, don't go for impact factor of 6 or 9. Why? This is a business and it's a game. If my journal has an impact factor, say that I am the New England Journal of Medicine or the JAMA or the Lancet, maybe I'm 52 or maybe 85 impact factor. This is huge impact factor. It's very competitive. I might receive per month probably 1,500 submissions. I wouldn't accept everything under everything comes to me. I might take only 5% of these. So I would definitely reject many good paper, many good research, because I can't accept everything. I have very limited numbers. So sometimes they bring reasons that might not be very valid, but they might say this is not within the scope of our journal, or they might give you a reason because they are so busy and they can't publish everything. They have to filter as if you are applying for, let's say, Harvard, and your GPA is not that good. So you have to manage your expectations. Start with the low impact factor at the beginning, then you can go up once you publish a couple of research paper, and once you feel that you are competitive, and you can go for a higher impact factor for better journals. So my advice, start with a low impact factor. When I'm saying low impact factor, sometimes even journal does not have impact factor. New journal doesn't have impact factor. Maybe it's weak journal, but be careful. I'm saying weak. I'm not saying not valid or predatory or fake. Weak, it means it's a journal, but not a lot of people are citing these journals. It's okay to start with weak ones. It's never okay to start with shady journals or journals that have illegal practice or predatory ones. So choose a journal that a colleague recommends and published in. This is a very good step. If somebody already published in a paper, if your professor already knows, say Saudi Medical Journal, Annals of Saudi Medicine, say the Middle East Journal of Emergency Medicine, so you already know that people know this is a true journal, this is a validated journal, and they usually accept work from our area, work that is not very complicated, and at the same time have a reasonable quality. So go ahead and publish where your colleague or your professor published in. Decide whether to publish in an open access or traditional access. This is the $1 million questions. What's open access? What's traditional access? Traditional access, previously, if I have this paper and I want to publish it, I would submit it to JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association. Secretary would send it to the editor would look at it. If it qualifies to waste their time, he or she would send it to the peer reviewer will look at it. If they accepted, they would say, okay, we accepted your paper, and they will take the paper. You don't pay anything, but they have the full copyrights of this paper. Usually they block it under subscription wall, so nobody can read this paper unless either they buy the paper, costs sometimes $25, or unless they have a subscription through their institution. Usually for Saudi, we have the Saudi Digital Library. Many of us have access through the Saudi Digital Library or through your training program. Ask Al-Hay'a Saudiya. Sometimes they give you a limited access, or even they give you good access. But for all the faculty, whether student or if you are a student in any university, even private, or if you are faculty, you have access to the Saudi Digital Library. For traditional ones, they publish it for free for you, but nobody can access it unless they pay money for this through their institution, or unless they buy it. Then we figure out this is unfair. People in underdeveloped country, very poor country, scientists there, they cannot access these journals. The libraries there, they can't spend like $1 million to get access through Elsevier or Springer or those publisher, they charge a lot of money. And I don't want to mention example, maybe it's private for some institution or agency. Sometimes it costs millions of dollars. I would say maybe $10 million to get an access, or $5 million. It's very costly. So they said, to help improve the science in those unfortunate countries who do not have the facilities and who do not have the resources, we're going to flip it around. We're going to make it different. How? You submit your paper. If we accept your paper, we would say, you know what, we're a journal. We have a couple of secretaries, we are renting an office, we are printing, and we have a website designer. So to help us carry on doing this for free and making this open for everybody, we wouldn't charge anybody any money. We would charge the author upon acceptance. It was good things. The author pays money when his paper is accepted, and the journal take the paper and make it open for everybody. So journals do not charge libraries and do not charge institutions. We call it open access. Open, it means everybody can open these journals and read the papers. It was a good movement, but unfortunately was hijacked later on by people who said, you know what, I can just have a website look like, let's say, Saudi Journal of I would say Hajj medicine. خلاص. I have a website I can create it now through Bluehost or GoDaddy. I can host the website and I can have a good nice domain, and it seems like يعني journal, and I can copy paste wherever. يعني I can mimic any journal, and I can put pictures of Dr. Imad Khoja, Professor Flan, Professor, as if these people are my editorial board, and as if that this is Prof X is my editor, while probably I'm not even a clinician, I'm not a researcher, I'm just a hacker. I'm trying to charge people for money. And people would send me their paper, and I would wait for 1 week as if I have my peer review committee, and then I would say, you know what, congratulations, your paper is accepted, now pay us the ABC, which is author processing charges, and you pay me $5,500 ولا $1,000 ولا 2000 سعودي. Then I take this money and I publish your paper in my website. طبعا my website is fake, is not a true website. I don't have journal, I don't have editor, I don't have peer reviewer. For this is the predatory journal. طيب, what's the consequences? Because people are saying that we might يعني we were close like this to be يعني a victim of those people. They accept any work. يعني one of the researchers sent a paper about his cat and mention the name of the cat and mention the story of the cat and send it. They call it sting operation. You do something, you're trying to expose people, and send it to one of these journals, and they accept it within 3 days or 4 days. For those people accept anything because they are not true. It's very dangerous. Why? Because if you submit your paper to predatory journals, that's it. Your paper is يعني destroyed. Research paper is destroyed. Your project is destroyed. You can't submit it to another journal, and you can't even withdraw it, because if you say, you know what, and I figure out your practice is not ethical, get me my paper, they will ask you to pay money. It's like a ransom. الآن صارت ورقتك رهينة عندهم. You have to be very careful. Don't rush into publication unless you know يعني what you are doing. Even if you hire somebody as a consultant or find a friend or talk to a professor or just wait. فقلنا accept any work. They don't have peer reviewers. طيب, downside of publishing in predatory journals. Predatory, let's call it fake. خلاص, it's called predatory, مفترسة, but it's fake. يعني fake journals. Research work is wasted. Withdrawal would cost you money. They would ask you for money to take it out, because now your reputation is on the line. Your name is in a paper that's published online, and you figure out you are embarrassed, and you figure out this journal is not true. You want to withdraw it, they will ask you to pay money. Academic reputation is affected. Federally, you might be liable. يعني الissue, let's say that you took يعني grant from a US institution and you were working there. This institution is funded by INH. It's a federally funded federal agency, يعني as if you took money from the government and you spend this money and then you published your work in a predatory journals. You might be liable for investigation. Job interview might be on the line as well. يعني can you imagine you are in a job interview and one of those people يعني take your resume and said, this I checked on it and it was I figure out it's not true journal. It's gonna be embarrassing for you. Make sure that you take it out from your resume if you fall in this trap, and try to do another research and be very careful with this. The consequences is not a good thing. And I found people who were promoted. Yani, can you imagine? You become assistant professor. Then you figure out that the project that made you qualified to be assistant professor was published in predatory journals, and they were asking me to negotiate with them and to withdraw the paper and find another journal, and I was like, no, I'm out of this, because that journal we're asking them to pay money. So make sure your paper matches the journal style. هنا الآن tips to publish your paper in a journal. You don't want to send them a paper, then they figure out you have lots of issue in the grammar because you're using British and they are American. Doesn't make any sense. You have to know what type of style they want, what type of grammar they are looking for. Check turnover time. Some of the journal take maybe 4 months until they, or 6 months or 7 months until they get your paper. They call it turnover time. If you want to publish something real quick, don't go with these journals. some website mentioned the time. فقلنا check the APC اللي هي author processing charges. You don't want يعني to send your paper and after the paper is reviewed they ask you for $1,000 or $1,500 and $2,000 and you don't have this money. So you know that if you are submitting your paper to open access you have to have budget. You have to make sure that we have this budget. Whether you ask everybody to pay his cut for this يقطه كل واحد إذا كانت open access, or you go with the traditional one. Check the published articles in the journal if they match yours. Go and read the articles in the journal. Maybe you find the article completely unrelated to road traffic accident, but it's called injuries. Maybe they're talking about occupational injuries. Helpful resources to assess choosing the journal. إذا تقدروا تصوروا هذه أو تاخذوا السلايدات very important. The Jane Journal author name estimator. You copy your abstract and paste it in this website. It gives you the name and the list of the journal that matches your paper. Elsevier has the same service. I don't think you need access, or you might need an access through the Saudi Digital Library because I'm using the Saudi Digital Library. Springer Journals, Web of Science, Master List, Think, Check, Submit. Think, Check, Submit, they are promoting that you need to think twice, you need to check and before you submit your paper. يعني checking sometimes يعني أنا if I mention story ما أعرف إذا في time والله بس it was funny story that I was suspected one of the journal one of my client was trying to publish his paper and he was academic and I was afraid that maybe if this journal is not true it's gonna be an issue for us, and they were so professional. يعني everything was perfect in the journal to the degree that I have been trying to contact the editor for 3 days. Then I found his number and I talked to somebody and he said, you know what, he can't talk. He might send you a text. He's a retired professor. He said because he had stroke. I was like, he had stroke and he's an editor now. Then I figured out that he doesn't know about anything. He's a retired professor and he was sick. And even I don't know whether يعني now he's living or maybe he's dead. And I figured out that journal was predatory one. Well, unfortunately they have the name the Saudi Journal of طبعا we don't have Saudi predatory. It's very rare, just only 1 or 2 papers published from one of the neighboring country, but most of the journal that we know, Saudi Medical Annals and Taiba University, Taif, they used to have one but maybe they stopped publishing. Those are Saudi journals and we know them very well and we know the persons who are running them. Only 1 or 2. We might have 28 health related journal in Saudi Arabia and I used to have the list of them. طيب هذا الجين you put your abstract, then they give you list and they mention which is PMC, which is PubMed Central. It means open access. It means you can read all the articles, you don't need to pay anything. But then they give you, this is example of the paper that closer to the paper that have been published in this journal that they are advising you to publish your work in. You can open one of these paper and read about يعني the work they are doing. I put my one of the research I published, I put the abstract. They gave me example of the articles that have been published in this journal. بعدين I opened one of the articles. It's closely يعني related to my paper. It was telemedicine in emergency department. Avoiding predatory journals. Okay, now people are asking how we can avoid the predatory journal. طيب because I'll take a pause and read this question. يقول how about online publication of abstract in conference after participation in abstract. طيب I would tell you just something. It's not only predatory journals, it's also predatory publisher and it's also predatory conferences. Be careful, some conferences they are predatory. They ask you, they come, they take your money and they would accept anything you bring and you would print and you figure out that people there they are not the subject you send it or not. But to do the peer reviewing process, it has to be through their professional website or software. They have poor communication language when you contact them. You send them and they reply to you, but their grammar is not good. It means they are not professional, or maybe they are fake. They claim impact factor. They mention that we have this impact factor, and they mention we are index in, sometimes they mention indexation that's not present. And usually they put it as a marketing at the front of the website. They are so happy with this indexation. They mention index that are not true, not indexed in database. Their contact are not professional, Yahoo, Gmail, etc. When in doubt, to go with the traditional. Let's say that you have a project and you are so scared that you don't want to fall into the predatory journals. That's very simple. Go with the traditional. Don't pay money for publication. خلاص, this is the rule. If you don't want to follow, if you don't have the experience with the open access, just go with the traditional one. Contact the editorial board or the chief editor. Sometimes you contact the editor and maybe he says no. Those people, they just took my picture from online and I'm not an editor. Ask them to publish an unrelated article. Send them any articles that has completely nothing to do with their scope. You might find a reply from them that after 2 days or 3 days, your paper is accepted. And your paper may be about cooking or about car or cats. How to check authenticity of the journal. Rule number 1, go to Beals list. Beals is a librarian in Colorado. He is one of the early people who spoke about predatory journals. He was harshly criticized by the publisher, by the predatory publisher, because those are big sharks, to the degree that he took his website down. He has a list. The list is good, but it has very high sensitivity. Specificity is not that good. It means he included a few journals here and there that are not predatory, even though they are very poor and bad, but they were not predatory. This is the only problem Jeffrey Beals has. Other than that, his list is very good. The journal is not listed in Directory Open Access Journal. We mentioned that we have now something called Open Access Journal. حركة جديدة بدأت جيدة لنشر العلوم للدول الفقيرة. Open Access Journal. Go to the directory of Open Access Journal and type, say, the Saudi Medical Journal or the Annals. If the journal is saying that we are open access, go and type and see if they are registered. If they are registered, most likely, I would say 98% to 99%, they are not predatory. The website, they hope to say 100% they are not predatory, but I found a couple of ones predatory and they were indexed in the directory of open access. They apologize for this, not for me, even other people find this. They're working hard to keep it very clean. Journal is not indexed in midline. If the journal indexed in midline, this is the best indexation, the strongest one. Journal is not indexed in WebSign or Scopus. عندك journal اسمها Saudi Journal of Hajj Medicine. خلاص تبدأ first go to the Beals, see the list, not listed, perfect. It means until now it's not predatory. Go to the director of Open Access Journal. If the Saudi Journal of Hajj Medicine, if we said we are open access, check. If you find it registered, perfect. This is a good sign. Go to the midline. If you find the Saudi Journal of Hajj Medicine in midline indexed, it means it's not predatory, definitely. If it's not indexed, it doesn't mean it's predatory, but we will keep looking. Then you go to Web of Science, go to the Scopus, then you go to the website of the journal themselves. I would answer a couple of questions about this before I move to the next topic. If you have a question, go ahead please and type it. Because I had a couple of publications in one journal. They did not ask for money. Editing and review took 7 months. Does that mean the journal is trustable? If they don't, first, if it's open access journal, they will ask for money unless they have somebody who's sponsored and they don't ask for money. Your question is they are trustable. Go through the process that I mentioned and check about this journal. فهم أول شيء they took 6 to 7 months. Okay, that's fine. Some journal take time. Does that mean type for money? They didn't ask for money. Maybe they are open access, but they have sponsor. Somebody is sponsoring them, or maybe they are traditional publication. They don't ask for any money. Can we send research to multiple journal in the same times? This is very unethical. You will be blacklisted. This is violation of the research. Never. You can't send your research paper to more than one. زي الامرأة اللي تتزوج من أكثر من رجل. It's impossible. She has to be divorced then go and marry to another person. هذا في الريسيرش خلاص. وهم ترى usually they know each other. يعني if you submit your paper to the Annals of Saudi Medicine and you go submit your paper to the Saudi Medical Journal, and I can assure you that they know each other and they know that you submit this here and you will be blacklisted. يعني مرة ما يقبلوا ذا الشيء لأنه ال peer reviewing process is volunteer work. يعني they spend time to do this for the sake of science. They want to improve the process. To them, if you work a couple of committee at the same times, this is not acceptable at all. It's really helpful. Thanks, Rakli. طيب. If you do not have any question about this, I will move to the second topic, which is how you present your data. Summarizing and presenting data. طيب. If you see my slides, give me feedback. I just want to make sure that you see this. Data summarization and presentation. طيب. طبعا هو الداتا سمرايزيشن حيكون قبل يعني finding الجورنال. هذا حيكون بعد الاناليسيز على طول. عادة محلل الاحصائي يساعدك في الداتا presentation. It's very important. You are telling story through data. You are telling story visually. يعني بدون ذكر اسماء، بس قالوا احد رؤساء الدول المشهورة جدا كان ما يفهم اي حاجة الا لما يحطوا له باوربوينت presentation ويحطوا له جراف وكلر ومدري ايه وزي كذا. طبعا that's fine. It's the skills that you have to do visualization to present to the people, but be careful because sometimes especially pharmaceutical company, they come and they try to convince you or sell you something that you don't need through just give you يعني bombarding you with lots of data visualization with fancy graphic 3D graphics. These skills you have to present your data once you have the paper and you did the analysis. يعني you have to turn number into graphic and chart, graphs and chart and tables. Why? Because you want to make it يعني you want to summarize it. It doesn't make any sense if you bring me table with lots of number but it doesn't mean anything. لا. If you have two variables, the more the people يعني let's say if the people are using mask خلاص they are not getting COVID. فخلاص انت بتسوي increase of use of mask COVID incidence is reduced. خلاص انت كده جبت لي هي بخطين very obvious واضحة حتى ما يحتاج اخش في details numerical details. فالدata visualization is very important. This is how you make your message. This is how you deliver your message. ترى حتى لما حتروح تقدم امام وزير صحة ولا نائب وزير صحة ولا هذا usually those people are executive very busy people. They don't understand every single detail in your work. ما بعضهم يعني they don't care about the p value والcritical confidence intervals. They want to see visually, they want to see something related or something not related. If they doubt, they might ask a professional people to check after you. But for you to deliver a message, you have to يعني present your data visually in very correct manners. ترى بعض الجورنال يقول لك we do not accept pie chart اللي هي الكعكة دائرية. ف you have to know that يعني not every graph is good. يعني أنا I see some people go with the Excel suggests for you الgraphs. You just click on it and it draws for يعني it draws this for you. SPSS يعني similar to this يعني just give you couple of graph and you just click on it. Some other software يمكن زي الساس يمكن الدكتور عماد تكلم عنه أو ستيتا أو شيء لا doesn't accept this. You have to use the right variable, right type of data عشان يطلع لك جراف. يعني لا يمكن يطلع لك جراف غلط. بينما الاس بي اس اس هو سلاح ذو حدين، جيد للغير مختصين بس في نفس الوقت يطلع لك اي حاجه تطلبه منه. طيب information that is اول شيء what is data. If you give me a bunch of number, is this data? I would say yes, but it's not information. Information it informs, it tells me something. عندك تيبل فيه 50 رقم. ايش هذا الارقام؟ تقول لي رواتب موظفين، هنا صارت information. تقول لي رواتب موظفين قبل مثلا كوفيد. بعدين تجيب لي نفس تيبل ثاني تقول لي بعد كوفيد. هنا بدأت انا اعمل correlation، بدأت اعمل حاجة يسموها inferential statistic. اما الديسكريبتيف اللي هو انا بس بوصف. فالinformation is collected through observation. طبعا احنا في الريسيرش most of the research we do يعني let's be frank in Saudi Arabia you wouldn't do clinical trial. It's very unlikely for you to do it, but you would consume clinical trial. يعني you would find if you do internal medicine residency ولا residency في أي حاجة حتلاقي عندك journal clubs وحتلاقي وكل الأشياء دي we depends on interventional trials اللي هو الجولد ستاندرد في في proving things in medicine اللي هو randomized control clinical trial. We consume research, we consume lots of research, but we are not synthesizing and producing lots of research. We might be producing research but it's observational. الانترفنشن قليل ما هو كثير. فبيقول distinct piece of information data might not inform unless interpreted. خلاص. بعدين data can be quantitative أو qualitative. qualitative أسماء أشخاص، ماركات سيارات، يعني هذه الكواليتيتيف. الكوانتيتيف اللي هي نمبر numerical. can be qualitative quantitative. بعدين قلنا in medicine we focus more on quantitative. الكواليتيتيف بروجكت عادة ما بنعملها كثير في الميديسين، ممكن يعملوها أهل السوسيولوجي، بيعملوها ناس البيزنس، بيجلسوا مع الكلاينتس، ايش تفضل العبوة، ايش تفضل السيرفيس وزي كذا، يعملوا لهم حاجة اسمها فوكس جروب. احنا في الميديسين عادة كوانتيتيف، كواليتيتيف مرة قليلة. ادوارد نيمينج واحد من البايونير في السي كيو كواليتي امبروفمنت وفي الادمنستريشن بيقول in God we trust all other must bring data. يعني we trust in God، لكن اي شخص ثاني حيجيني لازم يكون معاه data. يعني why would I trust you blindly؟ you have to bring data. قبل لا اتكلم على الداتا برزنتيشن، يعني هذه اساسيات الداتا. تفهم انه الداتا تو تايبس. اول قلت كواليتيتيف وكوانتيتيف، نفس الشيء هنا. الكوانتيتيف نسميها نوميريكال والكواليتيتيف نسميها كاتيجوريكال، نفس التسميه القديمه اللي قلت عليها دوبني. فالداتا عندك كوانتيتيف اللي هو نوميريكال اللي هو نمبرز، وعندك كواليتيتيف اللي هي الكاتيجوريكال. الكوانتيتيف كونتينيوس وديسكريت، احتمال تكلموا عنها قبل كذا في موضوع الاحصاء، بس عشان تعرف انه if you want to say for example do histogram، ما حد يقدر تعمل histogram على categorical data، يعني it doesn't work like this. ف data presentation is based on the type of data that you have, and that's why I was saying that some software gives يعني can يعني produce any graph for you, but this is mistake. انت ما تعمل histogram الا على continuous data. الكاتيجوريكال داتا تعمل لها بار جراف. كل نوع اللاين يكون عندك لازم واحد اللاين جراف، واحد من الفاريبل يكون فيه له تايم، لانك انت بتعمل ترندنج. خلاص. فما بتعمل البرزنتيشن على اي داتا، لازم تعرف ايش نوع الداتا وتعرف ايش نوع الجراف اللي يناسبها. وعادي لو كتبت في جوجل how can I draw how can I visually present ولا how can I draw a chart for continuous data، حيقول لك histogram. for categorical data حيقول لك bar chart. example of type of data. هذه اساسيات في الاحصاء ما حخش فيها لانه اتوقع يمكن شرحت لكم هي. بس الكونتينيوس يعني في المستشفيات وزن المريض، طول المريض. الديسكريت ما هي كونتينيوس، يعني 1 2 3، ما في 1.5، يعني ما في ديليفري اللي هو 2.3. لا، الديليفري هي اما 1 ديليفري او 2 ديليفري، اما 1 فيتس واحده سيجر او 2 سيجر، ما في سيجر ونص، ما في ام اي ونص. كاتيجوريكال اللي هي فيها تقسيم، في عندك مايلد ومودريت وسيفير. النومينال، كلمة نومينال مو من النيم. نومينال مين يعني this is nothing. if you give ريالين لشخص يقول لك والله جزاك الله خير، تقول له this is nominal thing، يعني هذا لا شيء يذكر. فالنومينال ما في فرق بين، ما في احد يجي يقول لي الاحمر افضل من الاخضر او الاسود افضل من الابيض، لا. نومينال يعني خيارات. ما في احد يجي يقول لي مثلا الهوندي افضل من الهوندا او التويوتا افضل من الهوندا، خيارات، كل واحد يختار لي شيء، ما في فروقات بينهم. التيبل، نجي نتكلم عن التيبل في الداتا برزنتيشن. لما بنقول التيبل، ايش هو التيبل؟ التيبل يعني عباره عن ارقام، مجموعه من الارقام you are presenting them in a form of rows. وفي الروز هذا بيكون في عندك الفريكونسي، وفي الكولومز يكون عندك التايبس او الايتمز. يعني مثلا انت بتتكلم عن السعوديين، بعدين بتتكلم عن اليمنيين، بعدين بتتكلم على السوريين، هذول بيكونوا في الكولومز. خلاص. جنسيات المرضى مثلا او جنسيات الموظفين. بعدين تيجي في الرو تقول من الجنسيه هذه عندي من 1 إلى 10، او مثلا من 1 إلى 10، بعدين عندي من 11 إلى 20، بعدين عندي وتذكر كم شخص مثلا. هنا الفريكونسي. فبيقول لك في الكولومز عندك different items، وفي الرو عندك الكلاسيفايد او الانترفال. الجراف هو جراف يعني رسومات بيانيه. display information using visuals, usually a diagram that shows a relationship between variable quantities, typically two variables. Each variable is measured in an axis. طب كلمة variable يعني متغير. ترى يعني هدف البحث كله find relationship. الفاريبل y increase، x decrease أو increase أو no changes. معظم الأبحاث تتكلم على الcorrelation أو الcausation. طبعا ما نقدر نقول causation بس إلا إذا كانت very closely correlated. فهي variables وأنت بتشوف الريليشن شيب between الفاريبلز. عشان تفهم ايش يعني data presentation، اي احد يحط لك جراف قدامك لازم تعرف انه عندك y axis و x axis، ولازم تعرف ايش هو الواي axis. اذا ما ذكر لك الواي axis you can ask them، او انت كريسيرشر اذا ما وضحت ايش الواي اكسس والاكس اكسس تبعك عندك خلل في الداتا برزنتيشن والداتا فيجواليزيشن. You have to clarify these things. فالداتا برزنتيشن قلنا a process of using various graphical formats so the association between two variables can be discerned visually، يعني تصير واضحة visually. It makes variation in number more visual. يعني you are turning number into graphic. It serves to simplify data. بتبسط الداتا تبعك. It should simplify things, not simpler than it actually stares. لا تعمل graphic، يعني don't make graphic because it look sexy. It's very nice. لا. Make it simple. يعني try to express not to impress. You are trying to deliver your message visually, graphically, but don't go so wild, don't go so sophisticated. حتى أنا ذاكر 3D make it، يعني don't make 3D chart. Most of the journal do not accept it. Story can be remembered but data need to be visually presented. أنا لو حكي لك قصة ممكن تتذكرها for the rest of your life, but if I give you a bunch of number you would forget it within 5 minutes. That's why I give you graph, you remember it. Table present number in graphic. Pharmaceutical reps don't need to، يعني هذا بريك صغير to declare the conflict of interest because they work for the company. يعني ما يحتاج يقولوا we clear there is conflict of interest or not. Definitely في إنه في conflict. ففي الجراف determine الواي والإكس. الواي usually the dependent variable. الواي هو الواي اللي يكون كذا قائم، والإكس اللي هو اللي يكون الهوريزونتال. هذا الفيرتيكال وهذا الهوريزونتال. Pay attention to the label and legend. ليجند اللي هو بيحط لك تحت يقول لك مثلا اللون الاحمر كان السعوديين، اللون الاصفر كان السوريين، اللون الاخضر كان السودانيين، زي كذا. هذه الليجند دائما بتنحط في الجراف يبين لك بس الالوان ايش هي. الهيستوجرام بنسميه بالعربي المدرج التكراري. represent frequency distribution by rectangles with the widths represent the class interval. height represent frequency and the total rectangle represent the whole proportion. يعني كل الرسم ذا الازرق هذا الهول proportion اللي هو 100%. عندك في الواي اكسس اللي هو كذا، في الواي اكسس الفريكونسي. في الاكس في الاكس بيكون اللي هو مثلا الاشياء اللي متكرره، مثلا كانت الجنسيات او كانت الجنسيات، الوان السيارات او اي شيء ثاني. وفي الواي بتكون الفريكونسي. هذا الهيستوجرام مدرج التكراري، هذا يستخدم للكونتينيوس داتا، اطوال، اعمار، اوزان. بعدين البار جراف نفس الهيستوجرام بس انه بيكون منفصل، فبيكون في انترفال بين كل واحد والثاني. also known as bar chart represent categorical data in rectangular bars with height weight. يعني هنا ممكن البار جراف ممكن يكون فيه الدليفري، يكون السيجر، الام اي. تشوف كم واحد كان عندهم ديليفري في السودانيين، كم واحد كان عندهم، يعني كم واحدة كان عندها ديليفري في السعوديين، كم واحدة كان عندها ديليفري في المصريين. نفس الهيستوجرام بيكون بس يكون في فواصل بينهم لأنه الداتا ما هي كونتينيوس بهذه الطريقة. هذا البار جراف. وممكن البار جراف يكون العكس، يعني الأعمدة ما تكون قائمة، تكون جاية كذا بالعرض، دي نفس الشيء. حتى الهيستوجرام بعضهم يعملوا كذا بالعكس. اللاين جراف ميزته إنه هذا بيتحدث فيه الاكس اكسس. احنا قلنا عندنا الواي وعندنا الاكس. الواي بيتحدث عن quantity او changes in quantity or frequency، هذا الواي. الاكس بيتحدث عن time، جانيوري فبراير مارش. فهنا عندك ترندنج، بتقول متى زاد مثلا موضوع حاجه معينه. زمان ترى الى الان اظن موجود في جوجل، في حاجه اسمها جوجل ترند، تقدر تخش وتختار الدوله السعوديه وتكتب الكبتاغون بالعربي مثلا، يعمل لك ترندنج قديش السعوديين بحثوا عن كلمة الكبتاغون في خلال آخر 20 سنة. حتكتشف إنه في الزيادة السبايك هذه يكون مثلا حدثت قصة، داود الشريان مثلا جاب حلقة عن الكبتاغون وتحدث عنها، فالناس كلهم زي أوبرا كذا لما تستضيف أحد دائما الويب سايت يعني يوقف من الزحمة اللي تيجي. فترندنج أنت بتشوف فين الزيادة وليش هذه الزيادة. هذا اللاين جراف ممكن يكون أسعار السيارات، ممكن يكون يعني اي حاجه بس انه حاجه ريليتد للتايم. الباي شارت هذه الكعكه اللي قلت لكم في مجلات كثير بيرفضوه، يعني ما بيعتبروه مره بروفيشنال. هذا بيجيب لك بروبورشن، يعني لو كنا احنا 100 طالب فينا جنسيات مختلفه، ال 100 طالب يمثلوا الكعكه كامله. الاحمر مثلا 21 يمثلوا الطلبه السعوديين، الموف الطلبه السوريين، الازرق الطلبه المصريين، زي كذا الطلبة كلهم في الكعكة. والكعكة هذه تبدأ تقسم circular graph that is divided into slice زي البيتزا. it show percentage يعني، وكل جزء منها يوريك البرسنتج. مو مرة بروفيشنال، مو كل الناس يحبوه، ماني عارف ليش. يعني ميك شور انه الجورنال ما عندهم سبيسيفيك ريكوست. البوكس بلوت هذا نفس تقريبا زي الهيستوجرام، بس ايش ميزته؟ لو تلاحظوا انه معظم الداتا عندك في الوسط في البوكس، هم مسمينه بوكس بلوت. له اسم ثاني يسموه ويسكر بلوت. الويسكر اللي هي شنب البس، طبعا هو مو شنب، هو نيرفز اللي عند الكات. هذا لو جبته كذا هوريزونتال حتلاقي زي الكات مستاش. عندك الخط اللي فوق يكون الماكسيممز. احنا لو 100 طالب وبنشوف كم دخلنا، وفي طالب كان عندنا مرة ثري ودخلوا مثلا في الشهر 50,000، الماكسيمم حيكون 50,000. طالب تحت دخلوا 4 ريال في الشهر، حتلاقيه تحت. في النص معظم الطلبة. في النص الخط ده الميديان اللي هو يعني المتوسط. وعندنا الفيرست، طبعا ممكن نقسمها لأربع أرباع. الربع الأول فيرست كورتايل، والربع الثاني هنا تشوفوه اللي هو النص الميديان، والربع الثالث الثيرد كورتايل، الربع الرابع اللي هو آخر خط اللي هو الماكسيموم. يعني هذه ممكن تستفيدوا منها حتى جماعة البيزنس تتكلم على الكوارتايل. والبوكس بلوت ممكن يقارن، يعني you can put two box plot in front of each other وتشوف مين اللي up مين اللي down مين اللي أزود. السكاتر بلوت هذا منظره، عندك y axis وعندك الاكس اكسس، وكل قيمة بتحطها بنقطة. يعني تيجي القيمة الفلانية بتشوف مثلا 14 كانوا، تشوف مثلا الفريكونسي حقهم كان 20 تحطها نقطة، وهكذا دواليك لين ما يجيك يظهر لك حاجة زي الترندنج. والترندنج هذا يكون إما إنه متجه إلى الأعلى رايح فوق على اليمين، معناته في positive correlation between الواي variable والاكس variable. فلنفرض إنه هذول موظفين في شركة، في الواي variable عندي الاكسبيرينس تبعهم زيادة في الاكسبيرينس، في الاكس الرواتب، فكل ما زادت اكسبيرينس حق الموظفين كل ما الرواتب زادت. اذا كان العكس معناته هذه شركة سيئة حتكون، لانه كل ما زادت الاكسبيرينس كل ما الرواتب بتنزل. ويكون منظرها العكس، يعني بدل ما تتجه على اليمين وطالع لا يكون. طبعا هم مقسمينها، هذه نحسبها في الاحصاء بيرسون كورليشن، من 0 الى 1 تكون بوزيتيف، من 0 الى -1 تكون نيجاتيف، واما انها تكون strongly correlated او انه يعني not very strongly correlated او negatively correlated، اما strongly او weakly. هذه tips general tips before I يعني close this session. Don't scare people with numbers or intend to change the practice drastically. 3D is only for movies. لا تحط 3Ds. يعني هنا يعني even in English if you want to speak very clear English they usually يعني I was taught that speak to express not to impress. Try not to impress people. Try to express your research. Try to present your data visually very clearly. باي chart is not always the best. يعني حتى بعض الجيرن يقول لك ما نبغى باي chart، معتبرينه حاجة كذا very simplistic type of data visualization that they don't like. فيعني لا تحط شيء very sophisticated ولا تحط شيء very simple. خليك very clear، وضح ايش هو الواي axis ايش هو الاكس axis. حط الكونكلوجن تبعك تحطها في التايتل كذا، تقول increase in sales due to increase in whatever. Put conclusion, highlight your inference and use image to make message more memorable. هنا بيقول له are you sure this is how we get data into cloud. يعني بعض الأحيان الاي تي بيبل يعانوا لما يجوا يتكلموا من احد يكون شويه مو مره اي تي. ف that's why لا تستخدم يعني جرافس تكون ما هي معروفه لجميع الناس، واحذر كل الحذر. يعني this is for you as a data presenting person and for you as a consumption of يعني information. If somebody shows you two line، يعني هذا graph line two line going up with each other then going down, it's not necessary to be يعني causative correlation. في correlation but sometimes this is completely has nothing to do with each other. why؟ بعض الأمثلة هنا sales of ice cream مع الفورست فاير. ايش العلاقة الفورست فايرز؟ ايش العلاقة؟ انه كل ما زاد المبيعات الايس كريم كل ما زادت حرائق الغابات. في علاقة وعلاقة قوية جدا، بس ما في نفس الوقت هي العلاقة ما لها صلاح. يعني هو في حاجة اسمها كونفاوندر هنا بينهم اللي هو ارتفاع درجة الحرارة. لما بترتفع درجة الحرارة الناس بتشتري سكريم أكثر، ومع ارتفاع درجة الحرارة تزداد الحرائق. فكون إني حطيت لكم two variables في one graph, don't fall in the trap that you keep thinking in this that there must be a correlation between them أو causation. في correlation لكن nonsensical ما لها صلاح. يعني زي لما اقول لك لا تفكر في فيل ازرق في الغرفه، definitely انه انت حتفكر. فأنا هنا جيت يعني ورطتك في الموضوع ده. ف be very careful when people present to you two things that are completely unrelated. You don't need to think of it. Ask the people why we have two line graph about these completely unrelated topics. لأنه this sometimes people try to mislead the audience. This was all for a data presentation. And I would look at the chat or the questions and see if somebody has any question. It's important skills. Most of the people will ask you to add graph to present your data. خليك use simple things. You don't need to go for sophisticated ones.
Thank you, Dr. Sultan, because you present two of the most important topics in clinical research. Yes, you spent 1 hour, but it was so informative. Just a reminder, if you have any question, please type it before we are ending today's session. So if you have any question, please type it in the Q&A question. It seems that there is no any more question. You explained it in very well way. And thank you again, Dr. Sultan, for this outstanding and amazing lecture and for answering questions of the attendee. Also, I would like to thank our today's presenters, Dr. Anas Al-Hamam, Dr. Imad Khoja, and Dr. Sultan Al-Wajih for their excellent lecture that they have provided. And this will help us to plan what we need to do tomorrow. So we reach the end of the day. We hope you benefited from the delivered lectures by our eminent, outstanding speakers. And thank you all for your will to participation. I sincerely hope you enjoyed today's lecture and see you tomorrow. We wish you all the best in your research journey. Thank you again, Dr. Sultan. And thank you for your attending and listening.
You're welcome. مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.